Yeah, I called to tune in myself. I called this session Resistance to Violence via Beauty. And
Wonderful.
I'll read, my mother tongue is Norwegian,
Mhm.
but I have written some few poems in English. So I'll read to you two of my English poems.
Wonderful.
Uh, Connected to um, the lowlands of Bengal, but connected um, to us as people, to us as nature, to us in a very um, special time on planet Earth, because planet Earth is at stake. Uh, Mangrove, you may not know, but it's a kind of bush-like tree that sort of protects and, in a way, rescues a city like Kolkata and maybe Dhaka as well, and the villages. It's called Bardabon in Bengali. To the mangroves. The gowns of emperors are ridiculous. New measures are needed, very small measures right now. Let us grow downwards into our appropriate size. Fold our heart out, remembering archives still dry. But who will measure the level of water in the National Library? Olive trees just barely give light. Mangroves, I dare to call mine due to love, fall into mud in the Indian Ocean. I call their roots candelabra. Since they were seeds, they have given themselves to save the soil from salty and wild tidal waters. The mangroves on the lowland stay awake, warning each other always. They warn each other when it's midnight. About what can I warn when all of this is gone? The second poem, The Arctic Ice. The Arctic ice transformed flows towards the eyeballs of children down under as they sing tunes of boatmen and shepherds. The Arctic ice melted, passes by my children's cheek. It gets closer and closer yet to their mouths, becoming one with their lips near the Bay of Bengal. No boat on that day, no way to see one's mother. I can't hear.
Sorry, sorry.
Hmm.
Um, Thank you so much, dear Vera Saether. Dear Earthmates, we are visiting uh, Wera Saether in Norway, in Oslo. Um, and and uh, you are an outstanding poet, an inspiring person, and I'm excited to be talking with you. Um, in your poems, you mentioned um, the climate issue and Norway and Bengali, Bangladesh. Um, how did your concern with Bangladesh begin?
This is a long story, and it's like if we imagine a tree has got many branches, hopefully,
Mhm.
that will remain for a while. Um, so I entered into Bangladesh probably via with several using several boats,
Mhm.
using several boats, because the climate change or biodiversity loss was on my mind and in my consciousness long before I came to Bangladesh. And um, I certainly knew back in the 80s or early 90s that some places, according to those who do research, will be or are now uh, sort of the first places to be damaged or to be in danger. And when I sort of did my layperson studies in the 80s, I was already in the anti-nuclear campaign. Uh, I then had two dangers to think about: the nuclear and the global warming. And that is still, I still have those two with all the others due to political idiocy that is being folded out and which will have and already has immediate repercussions on the state of health or sickness of planet Earth. But I read a small note in the Norwegian newspaper in 97. It was about people living on sand islands. That means not permanent islands, islands that come and go in the immensely big river of Brahmaputra, from the Himalaya to the Indian Ocean, so to speak. And all of a sudden, I knew that I had to go there. So it was made possible, and I went there. And I got the words of the people, especially the women on the island, but I knew no Bengali at that time. So it was sort of translated words that I got. And my senses took in the living conditions. My eyes, my ear, my whole body took in what I was able to take in. And then all of a sudden, I got to know that these women could sing, and they were willing to sing to my ears. They had never seen a person with my kind of skin before. I was a foreigner, alien almost, but they welcomed me as their own elder sister or younger sister or mother or child, who knows, but they welcomed me. They crossed the threshold.
Wonderful.
uh, and I was absolutely taken aback and happy and surprised. And so that is how I got there the first time. I was already familiar with the Indian side of the Bengali region, not knowing the language, which I started studying sort of a couple of years after this event. And with language and with people who come close to your heart, the fact of this region being absolutely vulnerable became very strong and sort of made it necessary for me to learn more about what is probably going to take place. Now we know that the firestorms and the immense heat and the rising waters is not an and will not be an Asian phenomenon. It is a European one. It is our shared concern. So, but the lowlands of Bengal were an empirical learning zone for me. And my deep love for the artistic traditions of that soil became like a vessel. You cannot only be concerned about the full-blown danger. You need a boat to be in that storm. You need to sit in a boat. And for me, that boat has been artistic expression and, of course, relational and an immense relational concern, and I dare to call it love for the people.
Yes, and you then uh, focused on children uh, and music, didn't you? You
Is that
mentioned.
a question?
Um, well,
Yeah, I
and how did that happen? No,
but nothing can happen with children first when you are being a foreigner. You have to be with the adults first.
yes,
You
definitely.
have to be with the adults. So like in Bangladesh, uh, I was lucky to, that is a long story as well, but to put it in short, to get to know and to know deeply a handful of folk musicians,
Yes,
not children, not
yes.
children,
Hmm.
because children cannot teach children, and children need teachers.
True.
So first step was with the and had to be with the adults, and this was not a planned thing. Nobody sent me to do anything. I was sent by, you could say, by myself, or you could say by the unknown, but nobody sent me. Nobody ever paid me. So this is fully
Your initiative. Your initiative.
yeah, a shared initiative now, but the my history is longer than the others
I see.
with this land. I'm not alone.
Hmm.
I'm not alone here, but we do need more friends.
Hmm.
And it was music. Bangladesh being a land of rivers,
Yes.
sometimes flooded, sometimes dry, sometimes in between. And singing has been the artistic expression or the folk expression, not painting, but singing.
Hmm.
And the sister organization, younger and still more fragile in on the western side of the border, Bengali land as well, West Bengal in Indian terms. The same initiative goes on, but with plant pigments.
Mm-hmm.
It's painting, folk art, you might call it. Folk song on the eastern side, folk art, visual art on the western side.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But the bhab, the deep feeling is the same. The direction is the same. The method is the same, but cannot be the same because music is collective in a different way. You paint alone, but you play music together.
True.
Yeah.
And in our first conversation, you mentioned that some women didn't want men to
And
heal.
that is the event I referred to, but I did not mention that today. It
Okay,
was not. It is not important.
I see. Okay, thank you. I see. Um, and with your group, you have opened some music centers to
I
help.
have not. I, people, local people open, local people close, local people make local decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Mm?
Nice.
So the Norwegian support group, certainly, and me in particular, we certainly are part, but the work is local,
Mm-hmm.
indigenous in a way,
Yes.
because they know their society. I know parts, but they have been born there. They have become adults there. I mean, the musicians. So they know what can be done and what cannot, and what can be done when, and what can maybe be done at a later stage. All of this discernment process is not for us or for me to do.
Mm-hmm. Um, yes. Um, and which is the true democratic spirit, what you have
Mm.
just expressed. Um, uh, has any of the musicians had a chance to visit Norway?
No, no, and it was never even mentioned. And I am happy. And I know that visiting Norway for them would only be troublesome.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't remember if I mentioned this in the previous conversation we had, uh, but I had some visits by Indian musicians
Mm-hmm.
in the 90s
Mm-hmm.
before the grassroots organization started. And it was very difficult, not the visit as such, but the mental consequences.
Uh-huh. Uh, very different.
If you come from a Bengali village and you all of a sudden find yourself, they would not be able to travel alone. That is one aspect of it. But and you find yourself in the city of Oslo, how could you navigate?
Mm-hmm.
How could you ever navigate? To whom would you talk? Except to me, of course. But uh, uh, how could you interpret the signs of a Western city?
Yes, very
How could
different
you
culture.
not become jealous?
Mm.
How could you not become confused or confused
or
and
upset.
humiliated?
I
Uh,
see. Yes, you're right. Yes, and uh, your uh, your personal and your group's wonderful efforts, contributions there. Um, uh, is um, is there a part of media in Norway that shows interest in your?
please repeat.
Um, is some of the media in Norway interested in what you have been doing uh,
Some of the what?
in some of the media
Um,
in Norway?
in the beginning, yes, but colder winds are blowing now.
Oh,
In the beginning, yes, and beginnings interest people, but when something has been going on for a while, it becomes less new
and part
and
of the
less
routine.
fascinating.
I see.
So it's much easier to start than to keep on.
Yes, true.
Fascination or falling in love with an idea or a project, it doesn't take you anywhere. It's like an affair.
Mhm,
But the long time fidelity and being consistent
mhm.
and doing everyday's work year after year after year, that is another matter.
It's like raising a child, upbringing a child in a way, a project. Keep, um,
Yes.
yeah.
And my hope is that, after me, this will go on. And even now, it's a very tough time in financially
Mhm,
for us and for those who really love this work, because they are mainly artists
mhm. Yes,
and even European, even Norwegian artists, poems or musicians or visual artists are having a tougher time now financially
I see.
and mentally.
Mhm,
All people who want to think and to think about the consequences of present political and financial decisions are crying now,
mhm. I see.
and they can barely without a sort of without having in Bengal, I can't find the English term for it. You know, you work for somebody and you get paid at a monthly basis or a weekly basis.
Yes,
Those people can manage, but artists don't live that way.
true, true.
So, so uh, uh, this and also um, when times are as dark as now, and even darker after the United States of America election, I
Mhm,
don't call US America.
mhm,
I call it US America.
mhm.
America is much bigger.
Yes, true, true.
There
I,
is Central America, there is South America,
yes, indeed. And they
there
feel
is
offended,
Canada.
and
Mhm.
they those friends there, in the places you mentioned, when the USA is called America, they feel offended. How about us? They say. You're right.
Yeah, and that is part of the thing. But I don't want to give you as America that it is no doubt absolutely important, uh, but it is still only one of the nations on this
Exactly.
planet Earth.
True. True. I was in Oslo in 2010.
in
10,
2020,
2010.
2010. Mm.
Yes, for a few days, there was this meeting of writers in PEN, Writers in Prison Committee, and
Yes.
um, I, I loved Oslo as much as I was able to travel, and um, the palace and the garden um, of the royal family without walls. That was interesting uh, for me. You know, there were no walls. I saw no walls around the garden of the royal family. Um and that was interesting. And uh, will you uh, go to Bangladesh or soon? You mentioned something.
Bangladesh or India or both?
Both, yeah, the Bengali land. Let's say.
To India early January. Because of the politically uh,
Difficult situation.
a chaotic situation in Bangladesh. Hopefully, I will be allowed to and able to go there in May.
Mhm,
I want to expose myself to the heat
mhm.
and to the first wave of the monsoon.
Yes, that's very interesting.
The hot.
Mhm.
Mm? I want to, because I'm usually when I go during the winter season. I mean, between October and March. But this time, and I combine the two countries. Now, those two countries are not friends anymore on the political level, on the state level.
I see. Um,
They used to be intimate friends, not anymore since August 5th
yes, and
this year.
yes, and um, uh, poetry. You mentioned in our first conversation, uh, you said something wonderful about the difference between poetry and prose. Um, you would you please? You said poetry happens.
Yeah, which of course is a very quick and simple thing to say. Um, and I'm not even sure it is for me empirically true always. And still, there is, prose for me is poetic prose most of the
Mhm.
time.
For
Even
me.
when I write a novel, the rhythm is with me very much because I cannot write without the rhythm. It comes from the body, and
Mhm.
I write with the body.
Oh.
So the difference is not absolute in my case. Um,
And you mentioned the importance of dancing as well, I think. In-
yeah, but not while I write. No, not the
No,
importance
no,
of
no, but
dancing,
it is also
but
rhythmic,
it
rhythm.
happens in Bangladesh when because I don't play an instrument, I don't sing, except when I read out a poem, as a Norwegian poet calls it singing, but uh, I call it reading. Um, but when we are joyfully together and the young ones, the elder ones, have given their energy and their um, surrender in a way into their singing and music playing. I sometimes, at the end of the session, at the end of the night, I get up and then, in a simple and unpredictable way, I move. Let me call it moving more than dancing. and it is part of a collective joy, because until then, not in the night, not in the night, because when I listen to all the children, almost 400 children singing
Oh,
together, and in the, one by one by one, I am the photographer or the video recording. I'm doing recording.
mhm,
So there's no way I can get up.
mhm. I
I
see.
have to be in I have to be able to sit for hours and hours and hours and hours in more or less the same position.
I see. Yes. And when you write, um, do you, uh, is there a certain time of the day you enjoy focus writing? Is it morning, anytime, at night, whatever?
And it used to be that way. That morning time was my time. And now I have discovered that sometimes when I've been absolutely busy with organizational or practical or relational work, a long day, and maybe 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening, I can sit down alone. All of a sudden, I write for a couple of hours. Then that was not the case before. This is new.
Hmm.
So I'm not, uh, you know, and for long periods, I've had to write when there is solitude,
Yes.
and there is not always solitude because I can write with somebody doing something else, even in the same room,
Mhm.
but I cannot talk to somebody
No, I see. Um,
while writing.
do you directly write on the computer or do you take notes first? Do you use pen, pencil? What kind of pen?
No, when I'm walking in the street, and like last week, I was asked to write a poem inspired by a painting, any painting in our National Museum.
Mhm,
So I went to the National Museum close to the harbor, and I walked around watching paintings that I knew or did not know with a notebook.
mhm.
With a notebook.
Yes.
So I have this has to be given to. It's a literary magazine on the 19th of November. So there's not much time. So so uh, and I even use my phone sometimes for note making.
Mhm. Yes.
There is an application called Draft, and I use
Oh,
that one.
hmm.
Mm. But I write on the computer and I rewrite on the computer, version after version after version.
Mhm. Yes. Um, uh, let's say one of your poems or your novel has been published. A few years pass by, and do you enjoy revisiting your work and making
I
changes?
never do that, except if I'm asked to do that. I never do that to return to my previous writing.
Mhm.
Um, that might be because I don't want to reread my own silly sentences, but it is also part of another decision. I don't want to look back.
Mm,
And when I have sort of finished writing, I have finished my part. After me comes the reader.
yes, I see. Uh, mhm. And we have only about a minute left, unfortunately. What would you like to recommend to younger Earthmates?
Oh, this is what I do not want to do.
I know,
I do
I
not
know,
want to recommend.
I
Uh,
know. That's
you
why I'm
know,
asking
yeah,
you mentioned this.
just
Or what would you like to share?
no. I can only say to a young person, like I say to myself, whatever you do, um, try to do it in truth and try to use one question: is this true or not?
I see. Thank you so much, dear Vera Saether. It's wonderful to have you as a friend. I'm honored and I'm very happy. I'm very touched. I respect you a
I'm
lot.
happy too. I'm
You
happy too.
together.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Together.
Mm,
Let's keep in touch.
mm.